You should have special privileges.
Recording started.
Thanks so much. Fantastic. So again, welcome to our Accelerate Decentralized Identity or Self-Sovereign Identity. After Town Hall breakout room, I did ask Afia to join this room, but I don't see Afia on the call, just so we could have a quick chat about the Africa Town Halls and whether we could potentially provide this kind of support to the Africa Town Halls as well. However, because the session is recorded, I'm sure they would also benefit from it. So first things first, how's everyone doing today? Okay, at least I know Sean and Thorsten. Mario's good. Fantastic. I do have Marta's good thumbs up. You know, I had to go do my hair here just to get ready. So yeah, it's good to see everyone's happy. I see Thorsten has his hand up. Yes, Thorsten.
Let me nick 30 seconds out of your after town hall. I think there is a great effort going into proposals at the moment. And a quick shout out, because I know that the people who know what they're talking about are here. If you're a CA and haven't done so yet, the SSI challenge still is missing quite a few CA reviews. So if you can spare a few minutes, it would be absolutely fantastic if you more or less kind of raise your profile and just give one or two proposals a review. I know that you guys know what you're talking about, and it would be a shame if they don't get enough reviews and don't get the feedback from the community. So, and I promise I will kind of point also people into your direction, but it looks like that you're well done at the moment. Sorry for that, but I hope that was okay.
That's absolutely useful because, you know, because we know that the CAs are busy doing their assessments, we also wanted the team to know that this is also a session today where the CAs can ask their questions about the SSI challenges, just to clarify anything they need clarified so that they can really do good assessments. So thanks for highlighting that. Thorsten, do you know like whether they are just proposals with 0 assessments or whether there's just a lot of proposals with a few assessments? Do you know what it looks like?
It looks like still quite reddish on the SSI, so that means kind of 1 or 2. So 3 is kind of the bar we would like to achieve, but actually we should hit for 5. So as I said, if you can put a little bit of time in, and even if you do just 1, it would really help. These people are putting, like you guys are putting that time and effort in kind of to put the proposal forward, and I should get a good feedback from the community. So if you can help out on that side, highly appreciated. And I think you guys are doing a little bit better, but I will have a look again. So, but it looked like that we could use a little boost. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks there. Thanks so much. There is a question that I had that I wanted to ask the team. And this is a question that was asked in either the Discord or the Slack channel for Atala PRISM. But someone was asking about, you know, do we already have good examples of trust registries that are currently being used? And are those trust registries shareable with that person in the Discord channel? Because I think that's what they went, where they wanted to go with their idea. So does anybody know whether there is something that's live in terms of an example of a trust registry that they can look into?
Trust
Go on, you
registry.
can answer.
Sorry.
Go, Marta. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Are you speaking of trust or discords related to Catalyst or other ones, just in Discord in general? Or what discords?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly which one, but it could have been the self-sovereign, the Atala PRISM Discord channel for Cardano or Catalyst. I can't remember which one it was. Or it could have been the Atala Astros Slack channel, which is another channel. Sorry, there are just so many places to communicate. I can't remember where I saw it, so I'll have to go and dig for where that was. So sorry, I can't give you a straight answer. I can check.
No, that's okay,
Well,
thanks.
Okay. Yes, Lohan, sorry, you were going to give us an answer.
No, I just wanted to kind of get a good idea of what you mean by a trust registry, like a trust registry implemented in a project, or
Yes, that was my understanding. So it's a trust registry that's already implemented in a project. So for example, I know you're working on YOMA, and I don't know whether you have issuers and verifiers of credentials, and whether those issuers and verifiers are listed in some sort of trust registry that has some sort of governance framework around it, and whether that could be shareable maybe.
yeah. So for the YOMA project specifically, we did define a governance framework. It is publicly available. It is like under the Creative Commons Trusted IP license, but it is publicly accessible and reviewable. And what we did is we integrated a trust registry into our technology stack. And what the trust registry basically do, it takes components of the governance framework and then apply it in the code, and we call it governance as code. So we try and enforce a lot of the governance as much as we can from the governance framework in the code. And what we currently can do is, for instance, for you to be a trusted issuer, you need to go through the process, and then we'll add you as a trusted issuer to the trust registry. The same for verifiers. Verifiers are a bit more tricky because verifiers inherently don't need to have a public PID. So we had to come up with a mechanism of how we can create a public identifier for verifiers so that we can add them to the trust registry. And then what we also do in the trust registry is we control what schemas are allowed to be utilized in the ecosystem. So anyone can come up with a schema, but then it follows the normal process of we need to look at the schema, we will then approve it and add it to the registry. So the ecosystem can only issue against schemas that we have defined. And then the last thing that we haven't implemented yet, but that we are looking to do is also verification profiles. Specifically for the YOMA use case, because we don't want to allow mass data exfiltration by people don't necessarily knowing what that they can be asked to share a lot of credentials and sharing them all. We want to implement verification policies to kind of limit the exposure of data in the code base. So we've built all of that, but it is not in production. In the next month or so, we will actually implement that as part of our production SSI stack. Yeah, so that's the only one that I really know about. But surely there must be other projects that also implemented the concept of a trust registry into the code base.
Cool, thanks. That helps a little bit. We'll pick your brain more when I find the comment, and we'll figure out exactly what the person is looking for. Ellen, you have a question.
Yes. So hi, it's my first time participating in the town hall and in these breakout rooms. I am from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. At the moment, I'm in California. I am a PhD in bioethics, and I come to this room thinking the team is Decentralized Identities, and I was seduced also to go to the Cardano Women to know more about what people are doing. But when I come to this room, I just would like to ask you why I don't understand anything you were talking about. And because one of my goals also with some projects I will propose to the fund is about education and how to include more people into the crypto space and how we can increase literacy with that. So so this is what I would like to ask you, why I don't understand anything you were talking about.
So we're speaking another language at the moment. Called SSI. So thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, you're right. We need to make sure that we provide a basic level of education to people so they can participate in these conversations. So thanks for highlighting that, Ellen. Very good point. So our team has created something that's called the Atala PRISM Pioneer Program. We've had the first cohort finish earlier this year. So they went through like October, November, December. And what we did was, because it actually takes, man hours for people to run a live training session, we are now piloting a self-paced learning program, because all the videos are there and people can go through it at their own pace. And we will support that learning program with a bi-weekly feedback check-in session so that there's still some human contact. So in terms of education and getting people literate in this space, I totally agree with you. I mean, I've been in this space for about 4 years and I still feel like there's a whole lot of things that I don't know. I was speaking to a community member last week and he spoke for about 5 minutes and I felt like, oh my God, you must be really smart because I don't understand the things you spoke about in the last 5 minutes. I have a lot to learn. So what I would suggest is we are opening, or we have opened up the Pioneer program to proposers and co-proposers of, from Fund 1 to Fund 8 so far of the Catalyst program. And this is because we believe that the Cardano community members are more likely to go through this program that we're testing and give us feedback instead of going through the program and going like, oh, this really doesn't work for me, and then just run away and never come back. So we will open the program up to the public once we really polish it up as a self-paced learning program. And we're hoping that'll happen in cohort 3 later this year, hopefully by the end of quarter 2. So are you a proposer or co-proposer in any of the Catalyst challenges?
Actually, I think because of the time zone I missed, so I registered an idea, but I'm not sure if this idea is going to be, because I registered on Thursday, but my time zone now is midday, half past midday. So it's like, I'm not sure, but yes, I have a project. I'm not sure this project will be, yeah. And I would like also to know here why you have this name, Decentralized Identities, because this also, it's what brought me to the room, like to understand what is the proposal of this room.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to stick my Calendly link in the chat so that you can book 30 minutes with me and we can see how we can get you through maybe the Pioneer program to start off with basic language in this space. And then you can also give us feedback to say, yes, this will help a lot of people, or the following needs to be improved as a start. And then we also will figure out together what other programs we are offering as Cardano or IO, and how we can get you through some of that to increase the literature rates. And then you could also say, how do we get others involved in the same way? So I think that'll work. And then the Catalyst School, I don't know if you heard of them. The Catalyst School also does live learning sessions, all timed with the Catalyst program. So they would train proposers and they would train CAs. And they also have a YouTube channel with a bit of more literacy in terms of how to participate in the Catalyst program. So please have a look at their website or their YouTube channel, because you'll get more info there as well. I found that to be quite useful. And don't watch all the videos like I did, because for proposers, they have like all of the videos that they ever did. Just watch the latest one for proposers and the latest one for CAs. Otherwise, you'll be spending a lot of time on the YouTube channel. Lohan, I think, can I ask you to answer what decentralized identity is, if you don't mind, so that I can search for the Calendly links?
Sure. That's always an interesting topic, and there are many different ways to obviously answer the question. I think for me, the easiest way to explain what is decentralized or self-sovereign identity, I always use the analogy of a wallet. So all of us are used to the concept of carrying a wallet around. In that wallet, you might have your banking cards, you might have an identity document, you might have some other forms of credentials. And those credentials are normally in the form of either a piece of paper or plastic. And it is to a large degree self-sovereign, the credentials that you carry in your wallet, because you have full ownership of it. You can throw it away if you want to, you can destruct it, or you can present it to access some services like opening a bank account and so forth. And what self-sovereign identity is really the same concept, but instead of carrying a physical wallet with paper or plastic-based credentials, you now have a mobile wallet, a mobile app on your phone, and that mobile app on your phone can receive what we call verifiable credentials in a digital form. So imagine you take an identity document in your wallet, but now you receive a digital version of that in your mobile SSI wallet or mobile self-sovereign identity wallet. And you can then utilize that credential to prove to people that you are either who you say you are, or you have a certain degree, or you have certain things about you from an identity perspective. So, and the concept of self-sovereign comes in because you have full control over that wallet. You have the ability to delete connections, you have the ability to delete your credentials, you have the ability to do whatever you want with it. Obviously, you need to understand the consequences. If you throw away your identity document out of your wallet in your pocket, the same is going to happen when you do it in the mobile wallet. You will basically not have access to certain services because you can't prove that credential anymore. So that is a very simplistic, non-technical type of explanation of what self-sovereign identity really is. But yeah, it's basically taking all the credentials that we use today that are plastic or paper-based and transforming that into a digital verifiable version that operates on the mobile app on your phone. I hope, please ask me questions, because yeah, I think that is a simplistic, high-level explanation, and it took me a while to get there because I come from a technical background, so I always go into the technical aspects.
Help, Ellen?
That help? Any questions, or did I just confuse people even more?
I saw Lance clapping hands, but he
Yes,
knows what
I
exercise.
understand. Yes, I understand the concept now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks,
Great,
Lohan.
and,
We'll give you a mentor badge.
yeah, and I think just a follow-up on that is the empowerment that self-sovereign identity will give us. Because once you have this concept of a self-sovereign identity wallet and you start receiving these credentials, and like I said, it can be a proof of identity, it can be a proof of education, it can be a proof of medical history, etc. The you're basically empowered because you are in full control of it, but it also unlocks an enormous amount of potential. And the potential that you get is that you are able to verify certain things about yourself, but in a very efficient manner over digital channels. So, and then when you present that, so let's say I want to go and open a bank account, and they say, okay, fine, you can open a bank account, but prove to me who you are. Now you can go into your wallet and you pick out the credential that will satisfy their requirements. You give it to them. But the major benefit is that the verification that I call it the time of verification and the cost of verification compared to traditional models are significantly reduced. For instance, I can send over that credential, they can verify it within seconds. And I can effectively, in theory, if we start really utilizing this concept of self-sovereign identity, I should be able to open a bank account in less than 5 minutes and have a fully transactional open bank account, just because the verification happens on the fly from a cryptographic perspective. So yeah, it is really a game changer, and it is, if you look at the internet, we had two missing layers, payments and identity. Bitcoin came along and tried to solve the payments. It did a good job, and now we have like thousands of different types of tokens that solve in some way or another the same problem of payments. But identity is only now becoming a major stream, and I see there's going to be, I foresee there's going to be a major amount of adoption and utility for identity, self-sovereign identity, on a global level. So we have
Fantastic.
Eric
Thanks
and
so much,
Martha.
Sean. Yeah, Marta, you had your hand up first.
Thank you. Sorry, I was I'm trying to get a link to paste into the chat. So in the past week, I was funded in Fund 6 under Atala PRISM, but mine's more of a questioning, my project. And in the past week, I've been involved with talks with people in the XR community, which is the virtual reality, augmented reality space, and have learned some new things and sort of refined my project more. And one thing I want to mention is that there's an organization, xrsi.org, which is a really important organization that's creating a great push to make sure that people protect their privacy and identity. So I think it's important that be great if people who are developing projects for Atala also participate in that organization, just to have or representatives from Atala, so that there's sort of an understanding of what's being put forth, because they're working on legislation on a global level, but also in the United States. And that's one thing that I wanted to say. The other thing is that my project involves creating an interface, but also that would be amenable or help to build collaborations with non-Western indigenous communities who do not use gesture speech, and who have their own technologies, but it is not a technology that we would name technology, and finding ways for developers and to create collaborations between Western developers, so people like developers here in this group, and what I'm putting air quotes around the word technologies of these other tribes. And the reason for this is because so that we can meet in a virtual space, and we can have interaction and collaboration of building together, so that there is new building. So it is a way to create interface that will allow the least judgment between our groups, and to be able to find new ways to build. So anyway, so that's, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from the XR community. So and have some new partners, especially since the NVIDIA chips were just announced yesterday, which is very AI dependent and will greatly impact us all who are developing here. So I wanted to put that, I want to put the link up to that keynote that was delivered yesterday for people to review, and also for you, Anishka. So I joined Slack since I was funded, and there's no movement in it really. I mean, I think I joined it in like a few days ago, but so, and I understand that there was talks about how, everybody at Atala is very busy with their current development. They're not really open to like sort of exploring other ideas. But I wondered, because of what I've learned in the past week, I was wondering if there's anybody who might be interested in hearing what I'm learning from these communities, and perhaps finding ways so we could seek out ways in which it might be beneficial. So that's something that I would like to contribute. So if the new things that I'm learning. So if it's possible to, if you can think about, if you know of anybody, if you could reach out to me in the Slack or somewhere, if somebody could, to be able to speak about these things. And I also have much more of an idea in terms of how to build this collaborative space, which is a virtual environment. And I'm also working with someone who has a long history of interface going, and especially for large corporations that we know really well that are coming out with new technologies before Christmas. So I'd really like to talk to somebody to sort of, I don't want to say too much here, but I just wanted to talk to somebody at Atala PRISM. So if that's possible, that would be wonderful. And I guess that's all. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Marta. That's fantastic. I don't know if anybody in this room would like to comment on what Marta has to say. But from my side and the Atala PRISM team, Marta, I've put links to our calendars. So you can choose who you want to speak to and take 30 minutes out of their calendar and have the conversation. I know that we're very keen to get involved in advocacy discussions because we really believe that, you know, we'd rather be involved in the discussions so that the right decisions get made and we get enabled instead of us getting disabled because people don't understand what we're trying to do or what we're talking about. So please book time in my calendar and I can point you to my other colleagues if that'll help. And if my calendar is not working for you, send me an email and we'll find time to chat. But yeah, great work. I'm looking forward to the keynote link so that we can comment. So if anybody wants to comment on what Marta has just said, please unmute and give us your comment.
No,
Silence.
I don't want to necessarily give a comment. I just find the concept of using things like XR, etc. In indigenous tribes from identity perspective, quite interesting. Yeah, so if there's anything that you can share with me to read or look at as a start, I would really appreciate it. Because yeah, and it kind of really comes from the project we're building with Yoma, and where you need to work with people that don't necessarily have smartphones, that don't necessarily understand technology, they don't necessarily have access to data. And I think you will most probably face a lot of the same challenges. And if that's the case, you need to implement SSI in a different model because the true model in brackets SSI are not built to necessarily support these types of communities.
Right, and so I've had a lot of conversations regarding that, and we're pretty far working with someone who's embedded with a tribe that is not in Africa, it's in a different country, not in the US, not in Canada. So it's so there is actually the working in a virtual world because of certain technologies that are already being developed right now. It's a really simple, well, it took a long time to make it simple. It's a really simple step that is created. And there's a reason why then coming together in the virtual space. So that there's a very simple step. So I'd like to talk to you more about that. We'd be very happy to talk to you more about that. So thank you.
Fantastic. And then Marta, in terms of this community, I would suggest that you are welcome to bring your learnings into this community, put a 5-10 minute presentation together, and we'll give you a space to have a conversation in this room, if that can work for you.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Next, I see Eric's hand up.
I want to start with asking, is she looking at in a way to identify these people or give them an identity? I'm not really understanding there. The other thing also is that there's a lot of platforms that are talking about putting identity on the network and having it in a wallet. We have passports today. How do you transfer that into wallets? Where do you start? When you're born, you get an identity. If you live in the Western world, but if you live in a tribe somewhere, you don't get a passport, or you know, how do you provide? I mean, physically, how do you provide an identity to these people? What are you doing, or what are we creating to give them an identity that you then can put in a wallet? It has to start somewhere. Is there anybody here that has kind of an idea about that? I have ideas that I've been working on, but I want to hear if someone else has ideas.
I have ideas. I've been working on ideas for over 6 months now. So
I also have some ideas.
So what I can say is that I've been working on something called biometric identities, where you're actually using eye scan, fingerprint, DNA, etc. And out of that, you can actually machine code it. And once it's machine coded, you have that in a digital form. And from there, you can then actually put it on the blockchain by hashing or using the same techniques that you use for NFTs, for instance. I don't know if I'm the only one thinking in those terms, but I would love to hear if someone else has those ideas.
Oh, that's really great, Eric. Thanks for asking your question. I think let's hear, Marta, let's hear some of your thoughts around this, and then we'll go to Lohan for some of his thoughts around this.
Initially, when my project was proposed and funded in Fund 6, I developed the concept of an object that has no active components that would fit within ancestral history as a first touch in the relationship to the tribes that are non-Western indigenous, do not use abstract language or gesture. But have their own ways of viewing the world that are very complex and have their own technologies. So the more I've spoken with people who are involved with such groups, I've been in contact with someone who is embedded in one of those tribes, and so we're working on a way to not use a screen interface, so to not use biometric methods. At this point,
Martha, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was putting my finger over the thing. I always do that. I am so apologize. Anyway, so we're working with. So I'm working with someone who has a connection. Who that person has a long history in technology, but they're embedded in a tribe in another country. Who working with people who do not use language, who do not use gesture, so. We're developing ways to not use biometrics and to not use because there is a trust issue, and to sort of look at it as, and from this group of people that I've been talking to not look at it as like we are the people with the technology and they just need to learn our technology. It's instead thinking of they have something to offer us and and we have something to offer them, and what is the meeting point. And we call this a moat. So there's a moat that's being built, so that where this type of discussion can occur, but it takes a while because of the ways that things have to be structured. And so I think that because of the new technologies that are being developed that have just been announced through NVIDIA, and because of like the different conversations that I've been having, we built like these steps that can be created. And I did, my project did, and is exploring the DNA connection in terms of connecting to from this object to the network. But that, and that's still a possibility. I know how to do it. I have all the ways to do it, but I have some questions. That's one piece that I'm still working out, if that's the best way now, especially now that I know about the new methods within the virtual world that can be created that are now there's a series of steps that
Martha, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would this be universally applicable through the world? I mean, I'm seeing your point of view, but is this something that you can use in China or in Africa or Europe? Is this something that you can see could be universally accepted?
For tribes or others?
No, I'm talking about everybody, because the way I'm looking at it is that we're trying to find a solution that helps everybody, not a specific group or a specific, tribe, or only helping North Americans or Africans. What I'm trying to find is something that you can go in worldwide. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're in Africa or you're living in a tribe in the Amazon or whatever it is, so, a way for everybody that wants to be identified can be identified? That's my question.
This is a way to, because as we move out with our idea of identity and reputation and incorporate other groups, there are a lot of groups in our world, and even there are millions of people who we have not made contact with yet. So as we move out, those people we will be encountering them. So it's to deal with those groups, with the frontier groups. You can, what biometric solutions are absolutely perfectly acceptable. And I would suggest that you also connect with the XRSI group and talk with them and go to some of their meetings and hear what they're saying about those kinds of things and put your
Can you link that, please?
Yeah, I'll link it in a second. I'll link it in just a second. Yeah, anyway, I should get off. I don't want to use up too much of the room's platform right now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I'll just give a quick comment, and then we can go to Karim and Alfred as well. I know a few projects that are heavily looking at utilizing biometrics to identify people. We know what India did with our project. And there are a few countries that already have very good foundational identity technologies. Like in South Africa, pretty much all of us have, well, most of us, it should be all, but most of us do have our fingerprints captured in a biometric database, and we get an identity from that. But the problem is, so sure, if you truly want to link an individual to self-sovereign identity, one of the best approaches is obviously biometrics, because biometrics is something that you own. It is something that you can prove over and over and over again. Where I start to struggle with that concept, well, not struggle with the concept, I think this concept is sound, and it is a mechanism to really root out like what we call, what do you call the identities now? The term skipped my mind, but basically fraudulent identities. The thing is that biometric database must be kept somewhere. It's a centralized database that must be maintained, that must be accessible. And if you really look at self-sovereign identity, what can happen is you can link the biometric to the person, and once a credential is issued, he won't necessarily need to touch that biometric system again, unless he wants to re-authenticate himself, like re-identify himself. So that is definitely one of the most solid mechanisms, but I also believe that there are a lot of other mechanisms that are also very powerful. It might not give you the same security guarantees, but if you look at like social interactions, the web of trust, where a tribe can, for instance, you can take on board one person and then they can start vouching for each other and testing, yes, I know this person is in the same tribe. So I think a combination of like biometrics and other more social web of trust mechanisms can give you kind of the same result. And the other thing about biometrics is very difficult to roll out, because you need to basically take a person, single person by person, and enroll them into the system, and then basically give them a credential on top of that. But yeah, it is one of the most sound mechanisms to do identity proofing.
Yeah, I agree with you, but we're also seeing technology moving forward in speeds that we've never seen before. I still believe in biometrics, because someone can lose a finger or maybe an eye, and then how do you then go in and identify them again? So that's why I've always been thinking about, you use 4 different kind of forms of identification, and then if one of them falls out, you still have 3. And if it ever comes to a situation where you have to have a third party going in to identify who you are, then you can have that in the form of a non-government entity in a blockchain form. And then also, what blockchain are you going to put that on? There has to be a public chain somewhere that you put that on and somewhere where you work. That this is a very delicate and intricate problem in my view. But I do think that thinking in these terms is probably the way we're all going to solve this problem. And no offense to anybody else or anything like that, but I have a very hard time to see someone in the Brazilian rainforest running around with a phone. So for them, identity lays on a whole different level than ours. So I mean, we can look at those problems and we can see how they are solving it and maybe bring that into our society. But it's very hard to take things from our society into them because they didn't want it in the beginning. And so it's often a mindset. And I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. I'm just trying to make you see the way I see it. I've traveled the world quite a lot, so I'm just maybe I'm looking at things differently.
Yeah, and just as a note, I don't think putting any biometrics on a blockchain is a good idea in general at all. Neither putting any personal identifiable information on a blockchain, I think is a very bad idea. So I don't think the database should be a public accessible blockchain. Yeah, that's just kind of my top of my head thought about it. Don't put that type of information on a blockchain ever.
Well, do you mean the raw information or do you mean the hashed information?
Raw or hashed? Raw, obviously not. That is a super bad idea. Hashed information is a step in the right direction, but even hashed information sometimes, with that type of sensitivity of the information, I won't feel comfortable even if you put my hashed biometric type of information on a blockchain.
Well, I agree to disagree because there are blockchains out there when you hash them in the right way. And if you look at, for instance, Bitcoin, the way that works with its you know, Byzantine fault tolerance and then also the elliptic curve cryptography, it's going to be impossible for anybody to recreate your private key. And not only that, when you vote or do anything, you know, in the future, it's not with your private key that you vote. You actually vote with your public key. So I totally disagree with you. If you don't trust it, that's your prerogative. But I definitely trust the Bitcoin. I mean, look at Bitcoin, for instance. Bitcoin has been around for a while, and it's been hacked every day. It's still not being hacked. I mean, there's nobody succeeded with it.
It's not about it's not about hacking the Bitcoin blockchain. It is about hashing algorithms. And if you look at the history of hashing algorithms, MD5 at one point we thought it was very secure, and MD5 is today obsolete. It is not secure anymore. And that's a hashing algorithm that we used back in the day. Now, if you're going to hash my biometrics today, and in whatever 20 years time we figure out SHA-256 is not sufficient anymore, well, you know what? You settle the problem. It's immutable. You can't go into the ledger and say, hey, give it back. It's there forever. You can't roll back the blockchain. They're not going to fork the blockchain because you want your biometrics back. It's immutable. It's there forever. As long as that blockchain is operational, the data is available publicly for everyone who wants to know, well, who can actually go and get it. If you know what you're looking for, you'll be able to get it. And I think impossible is only impossible until it's possible. And when you look at cryptography and all security, etc., people are clever. They're coming up with all kinds of different ways to get more clever by the day, to break and compromise systems and use them for malicious purposes. So I'm just saying, we're not looking at the security of Bitcoin here. We are looking at the security of the hashing algorithms that create that hash that you put on the blockchain. And these two different things completely. So sure.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Which one would you trust better, your passport or your identity on the blockchain?
My passport.
And okay, that answers everything.
No, it's purely because I have full control of it. As soon as you put that stuff on the blockchain, it's available for the world. And at some point, yeah, technology is going to move forward. But that's a complete different discussion. I'm kind of just giving you my view.
And I truly appreciate that. I really do. I mean, again, I disagree with you, but if I don't disagree with you and don't listen to you, I can't learn. So that's how I
And I
look at
think
it.
absolutely. I think it's, this is the amazing thing about these spaces that we create, right? Different people will have different views, and it's okay because there is just like, the possibilities with tech is just endless, right? And who knows? I mean, like, one of the thoughts going through my head is like, doesn't really matter who has access to my information, because I don't know today who has access to my information, right? And what kinds of bad things they're already doing. So like, does it really matter? So every time I get accept cookies, I go, yes. I go, fill out this form, I go, yes. And I'm like, I don't know, I may be a bit irresponsible here. And Lohan would be like, oh, but I don't know.
I think it is. I think it is just because I come from a cybersecurity background. I've been an ethical hacker. I know what is possible. I know how people think. I know how they push the boundaries of technology, and what we seem to be impossible for them is possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will see. People are going to put a lot of weird stuff on the blockchain. We haven't even opened the can of worms of what people will do going forward. But to give you a good example, for instance, in Sovereign, which is a very well governed self-sovereign identity blockchain, purpose-built for that, you're not allowed purely, well, as a steward, as example, we are not allowed to put PIO on the blockchain at all. So I just don't think that the blockchain is there, especially if you look at SSI. Most of what's happening from an SSI perspective don't happen on the blockchain. The blockchain is merely there to disintermediate trust between two parties. And we only need to put enough information there to instill that trust in a peer-to-peer manner, and nothing more. It is not it's not there to be storage. It's not there to keep data for a long term, especially not highly sensitive data. At least that's my opinion. It was not built to be a decentralized database. It was built for a very different purpose.
Well, that's what they said about the internet in the beginning too, and look where we are today.
Exactly. We don't know how people will use technology. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. We are in the infancy to a large degree of what blockchain is going to be. And we don't know the unforeseen uses that people will come up with in future. We will only know that when they actually start using it for all kinds of things that we haven't even thought
Yeah, hopefully we will be there.
I would like to be there to see it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Guys,
sorry, go on.
Rick, do you have more questions? I just think there's 3 more hands, and I know our time is up, but
Go ahead.
we love SSI. So,
I'm sorry,
and
go ahead.
next week, please, so that we can continue the conversation, because I think it's really good and I really want to get deeper into it. But let's see what others have to say, if you don't mind, and then we'll continue the conversation next week. Karim.
Hi guys, this is really super interesting. Just hello from Dubai. I'm currently in the Pioneer program for Atala PRISM, second week. I'm behind because I've been assessing proposals. I'm also a digital transformation consultant and change manager, and I really look at use cases, and I think the discussion between Eric and Lohan is really interesting. And I recall reading Professor Tapscott's book. I don't know if you guys have read it, Blockchain Revolution, where he talks about freedom, and self-sovereign identity is a right. It's a right that we have to claim. And I think both Eric and Lohan have a point. I think the issue is we're not looking at the use cases properly to really understand what we need to do. I don't think having our data on the blockchain, public blockchain. I mean, we know that nanotechnology is going to be able to crack SHA-256, and what's going to happen with our data? What's going to happen with the lost Bitcoin that doesn't where the keys don't get updated and all this. My quick question to you guys. First of all, thank you, very amazing. I've been on the fly on the wall for a while listening, and I'm obviously interested in the topic. I want to learn about it. And right now I've been tasked by, and I wanted to ask you, Anushka, as well. I've been tasked by my ex-boss, who works for a consulting firm, to write a white paper. And one of the topics that we, I told them I'm taking Atala PRISM, I'm looking at SSI, I'm looking at DIDs, and I thought he mentioned how difficult it is for him to access certain things on the intranet, right? So this is a very different use case than what Martha was covering. It's inside a big company with GDPR and everything. Now, when you log in, they're asking for so much data to even internally in a company to prove who you are, right? So in order to have access to certain information, and they want to double check that you have the right to have it, because if you're in Europe, you might not have access to the data of the same company in Dubai, right? So I was thinking of a topic for a white paper, and my question to you guys, since you guys are the gurus here, is anybody, first of all, as Cardano, right, as Cardano or as Catalyst, are we allowed to collaborate with a private entity like, a consulting firm that might sell this technology, but probably adopt Cardano, right? Adopt Atala PRISM. And if so, would any of you be interested in collaborating on this white paper that's paid, right? They want to pay for it, right? So I'm looking for somebody to come in and bring in that knowledge. I'm not there yet, right? I'm studying, but I have the context, and I have the change management, I have the consulting experience, and this was the thing I wanted to ask.
Okay, so the short answer is that Atala, or not Atala, IO, which is Input Output Group, has a team called PSG, which is, I think, Preferred Services Group or Professional Services Group. I can never remember which P it
I've
is.
spoken to Carlos. I'm actually trying to work with them. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And Roberto has open office hours, which I will share with you in the chat. So you can book open office hours with him. They do offer consulting services, and they will bring in the necessary experts to work with you should they believe that this is something worthwhile spending time and effort on. And I think what's really good about that is if they don't think it's worthwhile spending time and effort on, at least they will let you know, so that you're not wasting your time either. So I'm going to just stick in the chat to you directly our office hours, and amongst that you'll find Roberto's one, which is the last one. Book some time with him and have the chat. If you don't come right and you're still looking for assistance, you're welcome to book time with me and we can brainstorm a bit more, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Anushka, and keep it up here. This is really interesting.
Great, well done, and thanks for going through the Pioneer program. We look forward to hearing your feedback on the self-paced learning. We already had tons of feedback in terms of people asking questions like, where do I find the username and password? So we've juggled things around based on, those queries that have come our way already. So the pioneers are already helping us make improvements. So thanks so much, guys. You guys are great.
I've gone through week 1, and then I had to install Gradle. I have a Mac. It was painful. I'm not a coder, right? And now that I've done it, I downloaded the code, that last part of week 1. And I literally, because I'm not a coder, I haven't coded since university, and that was a long time ago, Fortran, Pascal, and those things. I don't even know how to install the code. So this is where I am right now, but I'll work through it. And, people are always helpful online. And it's just part of the process, right? But I think it's a fascinating topic. I think Atala PRISM is a great product. I am talking to PSG currently about even joining the team. And I think that, because of my digital transformation and our enterprise architecture experience. So it is really, really interesting for me. And getting into the weeds and learning the code and all this for me is hopefully going to be helpful, even if I can't master it like the young coders that you usually put in your programs.
Yes. So what I would say is, if you're not a developer and you don't really want to be a developer, then go through the material so that you have an understanding, right? So if you look at Lars's lectures, it gives you a really good handle on what the code looks like and how he executes it and all of that. And you don't have to go and try and do it for yourself if it's going to break your computer and break your brain. But, going through the rest of the content, especially the video content, will give you really good insight into what SSI is, what's the latest stuff that's happening in the SSI community around the world. There's like great case studies, what advocacy stuff is going on. And then there's a lot of reading material that's shared in the training as well. And you can decide what pieces of material you want to read. So we've also shared a bit about, building virtuous systems, because we want people to build responsibly and not just haphazardly or irresponsibly. So there's a little bit in terms of values and how to build virtuous systems and how to think about your solutions. That's quite like deep and theoretical, which is also good. But if you want to know about the SSI content, the lecture videos and the fireside chats will help a lot. And if you want to go deeper into the philosophies and thinking about how you should go about doing things, I think then you can start reading the extra material as well. But once you go next, and go through the program, that'll give you, good coverage just to get up to speed quickly, and then you can go back and go through the details.
Absolutely, this is great advice. Well, having lived in Haiti and most of my life in Dubai, and having those two contrasting, let's say, places where you see people in Haiti with no identity, or they're able to go and then here in Dubai, where your ID is literally asked even to enter into buildings, and your vaccines and so forth. It's very, very interesting. And then because I advise government, right? I'm a digital transformation consultant, and so it's really key to have some of these elements in the toolbox. But of course, I've been what do you call it? Crypto pilled by Cardano and Charles Hoskinson, and it's been over a year, and now I'm just trying to join you guys full time, and then maybe take some of these really virtuous. This is obviously one of the reasons that a lot of us are attracted to Cardano. It's not only is it foundational, formal methods, secure, like unhackable, etc., but it's also about helping and bringing all these other people on board that even the tribes in the Amazon. I mean, that's really fascinating what Marta was talking about. But I can understand what Eric was saying, is that, guys, I mean, Catalyst and what we're doing here, it's really about bringing the majority and bringing the masses and creating that adoption, right? That's why the fund is there, right? To bring people onto the platform and build that and turn Cardano into the financial operating system of the internet, right? Anyway, I'll let you guys go. There's other hands up there.
Thanks, Karim. So who's next? Is it Osama?
Yes. Hello. Yes, hello from Germany. So I am, I'm participating in the Bluetooth Pioneer program. So after participating in this program, I am also as part of the Atala PRISM Pioneer program. I have just finished the first lecture, and the concept of self-sovereign identity is a little bit new for me, and it's just fascinating. So I have a question regarding the decentralized identity, not for humans, but for IoT objects. So practically, I have two proposals in the current Fund 8 regarding the automobile industry, and that's about building connected car dApps on Cardano. So I'm now thinking about the next features or steps, what to implement. One of them, I think it's important to issue and attribute decentralized identity for cars, because cars are IoT objects that are independent, and that will be independent with the blockchain and with our solution, and they will have their own wallet. So my question is, why am I hearing, yes, I am a little bit new, but why am I hearing a lot about self-sovereign identity for humans, not for objects, IoT objects? And also the second one, do you have any thoughts, comments about the decentralized identity for IoT objects? Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes. Yes, so Lohan has comments. But just take Osama. Johnny sent you a message in the chat. Osama, if you can copy that link and have a look at that project that's currently building on Cardano so that you don't miss it. And then I'll let Lohan talk about this, because he's done some work in this space, a lot of work in this space. Go, Lohan.
Yeah, so I think at the moment, why we are mostly hearing about self-sovereign identity for humans is because it is the natural starting point. First solve the human problem and then worry about the machine problem. But if you look at DIDs, the concept of decentralized identifiers, it can apply to humans, organizations, man-made things, and natural things. I will eventually be able to give ID to anything, not only a car. If you think giving a DID to a car is that is a good idea, but you know what's going to happen. The car is not going to have a DID. The car is going to have hundreds of DIDs. There's going to be DIDs assigned to the rims of the car, to the brake pads, to the parts of the car, because nothing stops you from identifying every single individual part in that car, and they all will roll up into one DID that will basically have a whole, call it a Merkle tree of some sort, some mechanism. Because then you can go and say, hey, you know what, I bought this car, DID 123, and it is still under warranty, and maybe the battery is faulty. It's like, oh, okay, DID 456 is the battery. Take back the battery, give me a new one, and now my car don't have a battery with DID 456, it's now DID 789. And if you look at DIDs, so forget about the concept of self-sovereign. Think about decentralized identifiers, utilizing DIDs to identify things. I think the opportunity landscape, when you move into man-made things and natural things, will ultimately dwarf the application of humans and DIDs completely, like by a magnitude. But most people currently just focuses on, hey, how do we get humans utilizing SSIs so they can come into the digital world and have a digital mechanism to use verifiable credentials? But you can even take that concept further, and there's one specific use case that I've been thinking about, and it's actually now there's someone who's writing a white paper on it. But just as you are looking for DIDs for cars, why can't we use DIDs for protecting API endpoints? Why can't we use DIDs for inter-machine communication? We haven't even scratched the surface of what DIDs will do. And I think it was Phil Windley quite a long time ago. He said, if you look at the history of identifiers, if you look at IPv4 addresses, that is our way how we identify hosts on the internet. Then we figured out, oh, we don't have enough. So then we created IPv6. The same for GPS. GPS is there to identify a location on Earth. Now, if you look at those identifiers in a very specific use case, and you look at DIDs, DIDs is the next wave of identifiers, because we can literally identify anything. And yeah, please go jump into the IoT. There's actually, if you want to go and look at, I know there's a working group in Sovereign Foundation, specifically on IoT and DIDs, that did a lot of work in this space. But it's up and coming. If you jump into that space, you know what, you're just very early. Just as we are quite early on the human journey of DIDs as well. But it will become an absolutely massive space. And if you even take that concept further, now imagine you have a DID, or let's say a wallet with a lot of DIDs that represents a car. Nothing stops a charging machine for a Tesla to have a DID. Nothing stops traffic lights to have a DID. And that is going to be a very efficient and secure mechanism in future, where it's like, can this car charge at that station? Can this car enter that security complex? And it's all going to be verifiable credential based. If you have the right access or the right credential, you will have the access. So yeah, please build on it, because it is up and coming, and it's going to be an absolutely massive market. My gut feel is it will completely dwarf the IDs and the relationship with humans.
Of course, we will take that into consideration in the next incrementations of the product. It's very, very interesting. Thanks a lot for your feedback.
Also, Loan, I mean, digital twin, the concept of digital twin and identity, I think is also really, is going to be amazing in the next iterations.
And I mean, if you look at the digital twin, especially in your world that is like XR, you know what, Liquid Avatar is another startup. I've seen a presentation earlier today where people also are basically creating this concept of avatar. But identity is going to link very sufficient and efficiently with the concept of the metaverse. you're going to walk into the metaverse with an identity, an avatar that you created, and it's going to be a digital twin, right? It's going to be me in a digital world. I might move some of my physical human-based credentials into this world. I might move some of my metaverse credentials back into my own wallet. That's the future. The future is going to be very, very interesting, to be honest. But yeah, and for me at least, I believe that DID is going to be a major. It is that missing piece. It is the missing identity layer, and we're going to apply identity to pretty much anything in future. And DIDs will be the mechanism.
Interesting. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Lohan. Noon, you have your hand up.
Hey, Nushka. Hello, and hey, guys.
Hey.
So, hey, good to see you. Great discussion. I actually, I'm curious. Lance had to drop off. I hope that was hoping to talk with him because we're right now designing the user flow for how users sign up and get on the platform. So actually, the application of SSI and DID in practice. And I just got the UX flow back from the designers. I don't know if you guys would have any time to take a quick peek, but I'm struggling with the use case of the intersection between Web 2 and where DID comes in, right? Because when users sign in, they have to sign in with LinkedIn or GitHub or Bitbucket to start building and developing bounties or participate in funding and funding, quadratic funding. Do we create? Can I share my screen?
I think so. Do I?
Oh, it's disabled. Why participant?
Let me see if I can make you host.
And
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I would love to see your screen, but I can't make you
Yeah,
like a
okay.
host. I don't know.
Maybe next time. But I'd love to hear from the community, right? When you have users to come on your platform, when do you generally generate the DID wallet, right? And right now we're trying to build it, or we're counting on Roots ID wallet. Do we do it at essentially sign up, or should we do it when there's some significant action like voting for a project or being able to join a bounty? And there's a lot of questions, especially designing with privacy in mind, right? I'm also part of the Atala PRISM Pioneer program, almost finished. I just need to generate my verification credential and verify it. So, yeah.
So there are multiple ways, right? So if you want to link the Web 2 world to the Web 3 world, you can use things like login to Facebook, login to Google, or you can create new accounts, or you can just jump right into the Web 3 world. And you can go and look at that SIOP or SIOP. It is basically a self-issued identity provider capability that allows people to create a DID and then utilizing that DID to authenticate, right? So it's like a single sign-on, OIDC, etc. type of capability. It actually just became like, I think it was 3 weeks ago, they made it like a formal standard in that you can now use. So I'll actually put it in the chat for you so you guys can have a look at it. There are a few of them. So that SIOP is one of them. SIOP is a usual common term in the OpenID Connect kind of space, but that will allow people to basically get into the ecosystem without touching Web2. You create a DID right from the get-go, and you authenticate with a DID to onboard into a platform. And then from there on, you can create verifiable credentials, etc. But I think it is ultimately dependent on your use case. Sometimes you need to link Web 2 to Web 3. Like we will see a massive linking between the Web 2 world and the Web 3 world, especially for large existing enterprises like government, like financial institutions, like health, etc. So there's definitely going to be a bridge again between the two. It's going to be a massive requirement to get things going, but you do have the ability to either start in the Web 2 world or in the Web 3 world. It's really up to your use case to deliver.
I also think that, you know, the opportunity that you have is, I think anyone's allowed to book after town hall session, right? So you could book an after town hall session and facilitate a conversation around user experience and, you know, facilitate the conversation, play back your idea, get some feedback, refine it. You know, the community is here to help each other. So use it in that way. And then if you need specifically like Lohan's feedback or my feedback or Mark Griffin's team's feedback, because they're the UX guys, you're welcome to book time with them, you know, using their Calendly links that I've shared, and I will share with you privately as well so that you get that now. And then let's take it from there. And then if you do need like, you know, engagements with the PSG team and things, and this is just advice to everyone that is on the line, we will be doing a fireside chat with the PSG team so that they can explain what services they, you know, have and what services they're offering to the community, and potentially even what rates, so that when the community is busy pricing their proposals and asking for funding, you can then fund, I mean, you know, budget for PSG engagements as well. And then you're not like stuck with, oh, but I asked for this much of a budget and I don't have enough to pay PSG. So it's just, you know, things that I'm thinking could come up in the next few weeks and months that could really help the community. So please, yes, book sometime. Yeah, that user experience is going to be an interesting one. And I think like Lohan's got some amazing experience in that space, some amazing ideas in that space. But if you play out your scenarios with people who don't care about whether it's Web 3 or whether it's Web 2, and you say, hey, we're thinking of this kind of interaction, and they go like, are you mad? I'm never going to do that. You know, that's like probably the most honest feedback you're going to get. So invite the community to an after town hall, and you can get going in that way. Do you have the link for after town hall?
I believe so, or I'll find it, Anushka. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, if you need it, just send me an email and I'll send it to you.
But I've been interested in the whole UX concept around SSI for quite a while now. I mean, we've been designing interfaces since 2016, utilizing SSI technology. And actually, it's funny that the things that we designed in 2016 is actually still surpassing what we see today in SSI world. And UX is ultimately going to be one of the most crucial aspects, because when I started in SSI, it was a technology problem. It was very, very complex technology. We had CLIs and we kind of got stuck in the code. Now we're at a point where the technology is understandable. You can use it. I think the next phase is going to be, how do we truly make this usable and understandable in an easy as possible manner for identity holders? And that is a big challenge, because you're kind of bridging Web 2, Web 3, crypto, blockchain, all these different concepts. And then you have this thing about the DID. I mean, if you show people a DID in a mobile app, they're like, what the hell is this long thing? What does it mean? So how do you abstract all these complexities so that it's functional for them, but without exposing them and confusing them about all the different technology aspects that are actually dealing with? So I'm always very intrigued about UX. And I think actually there should be like a UX group where people can just showcase, you know, this is my onboarding idea. This is my app idea. Because I also believe that most of the current identity apps follow this the same design principle, and I'm not convinced that that is the right approach for the long-term adoption of SSI. All of us, or most projects, have this concept of connections and credentials. It's a kind of a repeated process. But if I look at if I look back at what we did, like way back in 2016, we already came up with ideas and designs that are much more usable and understandable than the current paradigm of what the UX should be. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement from a UX perspective in SSI.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Lon.
Thanks everyone for that great conversation. I think we had lots of interesting conversation here. We are like 35 minutes over. But I think it was really worthwhile.
Real quick? Can I ask a question
Pardon?
real quick? These, when you book that, can you book that for any time? Let's say like on a Sunday or a Tuesday, or does it specifically have to be after the Wednesday meeting? These town hall meetings.
That link, yes, that link. So I've just posted the after town hall meeting link in the chat for everyone. After town halls happen, after the Catalyst town hall that's scheduled for every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. my time. So 9 to 10 is usually the after town hall session my time, which is South African Standard Time. So it's booked for that day. You could reach out to the Catalyst Swarm team, and I think their contact details might be on that Google form at that link. If you have questions about can you run a session at any other time on any other day, because they do have other events that they run as well.
No, yeah, I do participate in the swarms on Saturdays, so I can ask there. Because I'm more interested in another thing that really interests me is cross-platforms. I mean, we're talking about, you know, you have Cardano here, Ethereum here, but then eventually we're going to try to, you know, if you have an NFT on Cardano, you want to bring that with you on the metaverse in Ethereum, for instance. So cross-platform is something that I'm really interested in too. Anyway, but on that note, I'm not going to take up more time, but yeah, I would like to see if I can book a time on a different day, because, you know, Wednesdays are usually not very good for everybody. So.
Okay, let's check with Felix and the Catalyst Swarm team. Are you on any of the Discord channels or Slack channels for Atala PRISM? On the Discord or Slack channels, you can ask a question there as well if you need to. But yeah, you're also welcome to book an open office hours with me. I'm happy to have a chat to see how we could potentially have other open sessions to have these conversations. But thanks so much for the participation. And again, thanks to all of you for being here, because you make the community, you are the community, and together we're going to make SSI fly. I really believe that by the end of this year, I'm going to have my identity wallet in my hand, and I'm going to do some real stuff with my identity wallet. So please help make that real this year still. It's our moonshot. Have a lovely evening or lovely day or lovely morning, wherever you are in the world, and continue to be awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Lohan, you can stop recording.
Cool.